good afternoon, and welcome to day 4 of Auroville Festival. The quality of sincerity as the backdrop. But today what we will be exploring is the 4th aspect of the mother, Mahasaraswati. And the theme being culture and perfectibility, the pursuit of it. So I'm just going to invite Nilima to introduce our speakers. A warm welcome to each one of you. Just a hello and a brief about you before we deep dive into this.
Thank you, Sudha. Good afternoon, everybody. We have Devasmita. Devasmita is an Odissi dancer and a choreographer. She was trained by 2 of the greatest gurus of Odissi dance in Bhubaneswar, Guru Durga Charan Ranbir and Guru Kelu Charan Mohapatra. For Devasmita, dance is a form of devotion and a search of joy, and she takes her stand in the ancient tradition of Indian dance, which unites man with the divine. Devasmita works and lives in Auroville, and she's currently the trustee with Bharat Nivas, organizing various cultural events in the auditorium. Welcome. We have Lakshmi Jyoti ji. Lakshmi Jyoti has a master's in tourism administration. She has held senior positions in a wide spectrum of tourism segments, both public and private sectors. She was a senior tourism consultant at the Secretariat of Andhra Pradesh and the Chief Training Officer at the Training Center of Andhra Pradesh Tourism. She is a 3rd generation follower and devotee of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and since a very young age, she has been passionate about understanding the inner spiritual dimensions of human nature and has a particularly deep interest in the sociological, cultural and political thoughts of Sri Aurobindo. She spreads his work around the world through her talks and her writings with a close association with Sakar, Sri Aurobindo's Action Pondicherry and Pondicherry University and other organizations across. So welcome. And then we have Pierre Legrand. Pierre lives and works in Auroville. Born in Paris and an engineer by profession, Pierre's artistic journey began only after meeting the mother in 1968. Pierre's work took off with the invention of a coded script to understand the mystery of being human from the cellular level, that innermost core where the material and the spiritual can impact each other to alter life and environment. Pierre's work is exhibited in Europe and Auroville from 1989 to 2001, including such resonance at UNESCO Paris and Light Matter Station and Color Piano in Auroville. Welcome. I'm looking forward to a lovely session.
So, before we can begin the dialogue, just to set the context of the aspect of Mahasaraswati. Mahasaraswati is the mother's power of work and her spirit of perfection and order. She's the youngest of the 4, most skillful in the executive faculty and the nearest to physical nature. She lays down the lines of the world forces. Mahakali drives the energy and the impetus. Mahalakshmi discovers the rhythm and measures. But it is Mahasaraswati presiding over the detail of organization and execution. Relation of parts and the effective combination of forces and unfailing exactitude of result and fulfillment. The science and craft and technique of things are Mahasaraswati's province. Always she holds in her nature and gives to those to whom she has chosen the intimate and precise knowledge, the subtlety and patience, the accuracy of the intuitive mind and conscious hand, and the discerning eye of the perfect worker. Power is the strong, the tireless, the careful and efficient builder, organizer, administrator, technician, artisan, and classifier of the worlds. When she takes up the transformation and new building of nature, her action is laborious and minute and often seems to our impatience slow and interminable. But it is persistent, it's integral, and it's flawless. For the will in her works is scrupulous, unsleeping, indefatigable. Leaning over us, she notes and touches every little detail that has been done and that remains to be done thereafter. Nothing is too small or apparently trivial for her attention. Nothing, however, impalpable or disguised or latent can escape her eyes. Molding and remolding, she labors till each part attains its true forms, is put in its exact place in the whole, and fulfills its precise purpose. In the constant and diligent arrangement and rearrangement of things, her eye is on all the needs at once and the way to meet them, and her intuition knows what is to be chosen, what's to be rejected, and successfully determine the right instrument, the right time, the right condition, and the right process. Therefore, of all the mother's powers, she is the most long-suffering with man and his thousands imperfections. Kind, smiling, close and helpful, not easily turned away or discouraged. Insistent even after repeated failure, her hand sustains our very step on condition that we are single in our will and straightforward and sincere. For a double mind she will not tolerate, and a revealing irony is merciless to drama and histrionics and self-deceit and pretense. At work, of the other powers leans on her for its completeness. For she assures the material foundation, elaborates the stuff of detail, and erects and rivets the armor of structure. There's a lot more to be read, but I'm just kind of wanting to set the context, because I think this is, as it's been said, she's the youngest, but also what she is demanding, the exactitude, the attention, the perfection, which sometimes in a human nature is easy to compromise, and that laxitude. So I would love to start the conversation with Pierre. So in your opinion, what do you see as perfection? What are the nuances or the dimensions of perfection? Because on one hand, I have heard as growing up that you're too much of a perfectionist, give it up. But on the other hand, it is expected that it is given. So how do I understand this? How do I even stay open to what does perfection mean? Is it static? Is it it is dynamic? Where all's at what levels is this perfection? And as a human born on this path, striving for that divinity oneness, at an individual level, how do I pursue it? How do I express that at the collective level?
When I first heard about these, how do you call it?
The aspects of the mother.
Yeah. It's a pity that immediately there was like a joke who came to me. It's a Chinese proverb which says, perfection is death. So they go so much into that, the Chinese, when they finish a house, they break. Ça marche? When they finish. Hello? When they finish a house, they even break one tile or two to make sure that the house is not perfect. But we don't have this problem here because when you finish the house, there's already 100 tiles which have been broken. So what does it mean? I was saying, what does it mean? And it's very simply what is very interesting in your questions. It brings the difference between perfection and perfectibility. Because it's true, when you reach a certain perfection, or when you think you have reached a certain perfection, then the first instinct is to sit down and enjoy the thing. When you are on the other hand striving for perfectibility, it's an endless search, and that's why it is sometimes quite frustrating, because when you arrive at something, there is something coming to ask you a new question. Like Picasso, once he was asked, "What is your best painting?" He said, "The next one." And I experienced the same thing with my art. I have my little moment of glory for 1 week, I'm happy, and then there is, as if the painting itself asks for the next one. So this is I would say, the challenge of looking for perfection. And because of you, or because of this workshop, I really thought of what is perfection. And I realized that there are many, many definitions of perfection. For example, 2 weeks ago, I saw a video on the manufacturing of the Airbus, you see, and I was really stunned by the fact that the Airbus is assembled in France, and the parts come from all over Europe. And there are 2 million parts which I managed to make a plane which works. So I said, is that perfection? And then I thought of a Ferrari. And then I know this is not exactly the perfection that we are looking for in Auroville. So I tried to switch the attention, and I tried to ask myself, where did I experience perfection? And for some reason, where I first experienced it in a very, very deep way was in Japan. I was 6 months in Japan, and I had rented a room which was ordinary. And for 6 months, I discovered something really beautiful, or a detail in my little Japanese room. And funnily, after Japan, 2 weeks later, I was living in Golconde in Pondicherry. And there, I almost cried because it was such a perfection. You see, it was such. So this is not the same perfection that when you enter Airbus. This is a perfection which expands your being. You feel as if your being is happy, you cannot define. So this is the thing that we have to strive. Actually, the mother said once, I think it was a New Year message, never stop striving for perfection. And so that's where I am. We should keep some space for those two ladies.
Sure, but coming back to it, so I get a sense of, a glimpse of what this, but are there dimensions at which, like what could be a dimension of perfection, say at a soul level, or at an individual level when I'm practicing it, or like you brought the example of work, but you also brought the example of the space.
Yeah.
So how does one look at perfection in these different dimensions, and how do they come together in a sense that can, like you said, it is congruent, it helps me to feel expansive, I feel happy and somewhere at home?
The big thing about perfection, I would say for us, is that it has to be experienced physically in the body. You see, because if you are in your mind, you can go into different definitions. So that's, I would say, a real perfection is something which awakes a new sense in the body. You see, and if I want to go a little further, it's that we are here to make a bridge between the subtle physical and the physical. And I would say a perfection is when it is adapted to what you are looking for. You see, for example, it can be clumsy, but if it is your maximum, it's a perfection for you. So that's why it's very, very, it's very unclear, and it will be a big mistake to try to make a definition of perfection. Perfection is like this, like this, like that. That was the mistake of the classical ages, who had decided once for all what is the eternal perfection. I don't think that it's not a proper attitude to perfection. So I would say perfection is I would like to speak a lot after, but...
Sure, thank you so much. So to Lakshmi,
Hello.
hey, so we know the context and the exactness of this, and even here when we share the example, right, that in the moment it seems that what I have done is perfect. But another moment and another time, the same work doesn't seem perfect. You begin to see something that you did not see before. So this journey is progressive. It's evolutionary in that sense, but it also brings an element of tiring and tirelessness, right? how does one bring that distinction in such a way where tiring, when does that element is felt, and tirelessness when it is an element of persevering, and that's deep and continuous and which holds us and keeps us on that path. So in your experience, how does one bring in that element? How does one get back into experiencing the integrality of it so that we are sustaining ourselves on the path of, the larger divine higher nature of what we all are aspiring for?
Yeah. Hello, am I clear? So to begin with, Mother says, perfection is not an extreme. Perfection is an equilibrium. It's not like I take one element and try to, become perfect in it. And also perfection is also defined as, there is a divine perfection and a human perfection. Human perfection is what you do with your ego. With, it's your vital and it's your physical and a mind which involves in it. So when you're at this level, it is your effort which has to go into it. You see, talking about being tireless about it, the overarching topic is sincerity. Mother says first thing that is required is, do you really want it? And she says, when you sincerely want something, sincerity itself is a power much greater than the willpower of the mind. If you really want it, you may fall down 100 times. But that since when you say, I want to do it sincerely, you do it. There are no two things about it. You just go and do it. You're sincere about it. So first thing is, do we want this kind of perfection? Is that what we are aiming at? So then once you want it, you make your effort, but there comes the second level where the effort cannot be personal. It has to be taken over. Here maybe we can say Mahasaraswati. That's the second level. We realize that's where we start moving from the human perfection to the divine perfection. The Mahasaraswati, we need to have the humility. It's not like I take a book and I start writing and say, okay, today I'm perfecting this, tomorrow and that. No, it's not like that. Because we are aiming at a divine. And you said integrality of higher nature. Well, if I take a mundane, example, what is this integrality? There's so many levels when we speak about divine perfection. There's so much. You have the samatha which you have to get in. Then Sri Aurobindo speaks about the Shakti, then Daivi Prakriti, the Gnostic Center, and Anandamaya. And there's no end to it. It keeps going it. So integrality, when you speak about, to give you an example, today, a very mundane example, we have read Life Divine. And there are certain things which are revealed to our mind. What do we do next? We should try some way to bring that knowledge to the level of the vital and the physical also. So every time you get a new knowledge, are we integralizing it with our entire personality and then move higher? Otherwise, what happens is your mind is in the air, you keep going and going, your outer nature is not purified. It's still impure, and there is a clash after some time, and there is a collapse. So at every stage, you get the new knowledge, you integralize with your lower instruments, then you proceed further. I look at this integrality of the higher nature that way, and this is tireless, this is unending. Maybe I can give you perhaps 2 examples. One is right from Savitri. There is this beautiful, for some beautiful lines, you have Ashwapati. Ashwapati, we know about that world of stare. He crosses the physical, subtle physical, the vital, high vital. He's there almost at the end of it. But still, somewhere he realizes, he can sense the Divine Mother there, but she's not there. The darshan is not happening. The event is not happening. And what does he do at this moment? He looks within. He said, what is it? So there is unending. It's not like, okay, I had my psychic realization and I'm done. The Mahasaraswati, see you later. It goes, it's a continuous, and and this experience itself keeps pushing up. Then at that level, when he starts looking into himself, Sri Aurobindo puts it so beautifully. He says, these refugee instincts and unshaped revolts, which seek shelter in darkness's sanctuary. So there's so much of darkness, so much to be worked upon, within our own self. Then what does Ashwapati do when he realizes at that level also he finds some desire, some darkness in him? What does he do? Some of my favorite lines. Then what he does the way Sri Aurobindo says is, he tears desire up from its bleeding roots. So it was those roots were so strong of this darkness, these defectness, this falsehood, this evil also we call it, It was there. So he had to pull it up from the bleeding roots and offer to the gods the vacant place. Thus he could bear the touch immaculate. A last and mightiest transformation came. Only then. So this perfection is unending and tiring and not tiring, as I keep saying, like as long as it's your effort, you obviously feel tired. Or that's what, Mother's Yoga, what we need to do is give our consent and make, we have to offer ourselves whatever we are. Then when she takes over the yoga in us, it is not something we can do it. We are looking at a stage where we are going beyond the mind. Then that perfection happens, and finally, the Divine Mother comes before Srimati. So till you reach that highest level, this keeps on going, this perfection. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you. And taking it from there on to you, Devasmita, is the aspect that she brought, that it is a continuous nature and it's built on what is already there, right? It's higher and higher. You never really know till you keep looking within. So fulfilling the exact purpose and completing our task, molding and remolding, she labors each part till it has attained its true form, is put in its exact place in the whole and fulfills its precise purpose. So one, at a spiritual level, it is a constant. But coming back to now being at a practical as a human level and as a dancer yourself and as an organizer, what has been your experience of this aspect when there is the pressing urgency of the here and the now, but there is also a call of the future that needs to be addressed or held or looked into? And while you have a vision, you're also with people, the collective. What has been your journey? What has been your experience? And how have you worked through some of these demands, or where there is the exact purpose and completing of the task?
Well, we are still human beings, and it's our own perseverance in the work and the goal that we have put, how we focus on it. And I feel the world will be much better if each one of us give our best every moment, every second. And of course, we have to adapt to the situations, different situations which are unpredictable sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But the effort that we put, the work, constant work, and will for getting into a better, improved, and perfect moment. For me, in human being, we can constantly try to perfect ourselves. It's a inward journey, but the outer circumstances are there, and sometimes it does not tally, it does not match. But perseverance and our goodwill, which is important, to accept the situation. Psychologically, it helps to break the barrier. If there is a problem, okay, it happens. Let's take it from there, how we can go forward. And that has helped me, and also the bringing up in the ashram, which gives you a very calm and quietness to face the world as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for me. Keep trying, keep persevering. Make an effort to go beyond what we see as a limit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I
How
can
do
say.
you bring about that in the collective, like a part of teams that you are in?
Yes.
where they may be or may not be, especially when there is a certain approach to completing a project within a certain time.
As I said, one has to completely believe in what one wants to do, where one wants to go. And then difficulties always appear when there is a focus moment where you have to realize something. There are unpredictable things happen, but it is not always easy to bring the collectivity to be in that peaceful mindset. It's a very, I would say, an effort to make the other persons around you to understand that, look, this is the moment, like for the Auroville Festival 23. It happened in a very short time, many things, and sometimes to get the concern, the acceptance of artists, it takes time. So how we move forward to organize everything. But if we really believe in grace, something miraculous thing happen at the right moment. There are issues, but that moment when the concert or the performance has to happen, something very special happens. Like yesterday program, I would say, the concert of sitar. We had a problem with the podium, but it got solved. And then the quietness in the beginning, there was halla walla, and then the quietness came back, and the artists could perform, and the audience felt there was something very special. And the sitarist gave his best, the tabla player gave his best. So that's it. That's just one has to believe and keep trying for the best. And that was my philosophy in my life, that when you surrender and you give your best, around gradually settles and the balance comes.
Lakshmi, you had something to say to this.
Well, regarding the collectivity, the first thing is, I would say we have to be an example. For me, the first thing that matters is, of course, invoking the Mahasaraswati herself, Mahasaraswati, mother, or whoever. You know, this aspect of, okay, the human perfection and the divine perfection, and invoking the divine. I can give you one more little anecdote from Mahabharata. You know, these stories reveal much more than a number of words. So there was the situation where you have Karna, most of you know perhaps, and he's a Sapagrasta, this Karna. He's an extremely capable man, of course, with all the Sastras and Astras and everything. And there he was in Kurukshetra. He had Selya as his charioteer. I mean, we say Selya Saradhya. This Selya is basically on the side of the Pandavas. His duty is to keep criticizing Karna and to kind of discouraging Karna. You know, because he was actually on the side of the divine, the Pandavas. So one day he found Karna just standing like that, kind of lost in thought or something. So Selya asks, hello, you came with such bravado into this. What happened? What are you doing? He said, Karna says, you have all the Astras and Shastras and everything, all the capabilities. What are you doing? He says, I'm lost. I'm not getting the inspiration, the spurti, he says. And then Selya says, how will you have the spurti when I'm your charioteer? Spurti is there in Arjuna's chariot. Sri Krishna is the spurti, the divine consciousness. So you may have n number of astras, you may have any number of capabilities. Until the divine, you invoke the divine. And you have the humility to accept there is a force behind us which is there helping us and guiding us. And in fact, inspiration is also an aspect of Mahasaraswati. Sri Aurobindo describes her in Savitri inspiration with this lightning feet, the way it comes. So you see and first the person has to set an example, and through influence, you influence the other person through your example, then you invoke. How do you invoke? You offer. It can be, we have this wonderful culture, Indian culture, where at every twist and turn, we do a puja. When a child is born, we do a puja. You have to name her, you have to puja. All these ways, all these things, whether it's a puja or a yajna, you're connecting yourself to the higher self. We are reminded at every twist and turn that, boss, you see, there is something higher. This is not the only one. You keep doing that. And speaking about Yajna once again, Saraswati is also called the goddess of Yajna. Mm-hmm. Sri Aurobindo's, there's a chapter actually, Saraswati and her concerts, in that he explains. He says how when you do this, Yajna is what? It is nothing but a sacrifice, isn't it? It is one way of connecting, the yoking between us and the divine. It can be an external yajna. Internal yajna is what it is, supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And devatas are a part of this yajna. Who are these devatas? Sri Aurobindo explains, he speaks about Saraswati, Ila, Mahi, Bharati. All these are names of the, other aspects. And what of Saraswati? And what are they? They are the faculties within your own self, these devatas. So when you do the offering, what happens? You are heightened in your faculties. And all these, faculties are the gods which descend into you. And then you move towards perfection, the divine perfection. And Saraswati is also, her domain is also the mind. Because she's so meticulous. She's so, organizing. She has that keen, sharp eye. Mind is also like that. But mind is an imperfect instrument. It gets confused if you leave it to yourself. So Mahasaraswati is basically the conduit between the divine and the expression and the manifestation. That's why she's so important for integral yoga. In integral yoga, we are talking about transformation. It's just not illumination, liberation, moksha. Of course, after moksha, you transform your own self, your several instruments. Then after that, we have this collectivity also which we need to influence. That is so Mahasaraswati, either it's the word, the vak, or the work. That is the expression or the manifestation where Mahasaraswati takes the trouble, she's skillful in works. So she makes sure that we are perfect. You know what happens? I'm sorry, I'm taking a long time, just one more point, one or 2 points, and perhaps I will be done with. Sorry, I'm having a fading moment, I think. I'm very sorry about it. I think I'll continue a little later. I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So Pierre, coming back to you. To you. As an artist, how has this experience, how has the journey been for you? And especially when your work is about the transformational element that you're trying to bring, where you're seeing there is an impact on life and environment, and the transformation of the spirit and the matter. What has that journey and experience been like for you? And especially when the work is seen by an audience who has not been part of that process you have gone through.
That's the problem. That's a big, big problem. That's a problem because actually, when you come to culture, after some time, culture is like sharing thing. And I've been put in a position where the inspiration or the need to create is so strong that I have not even time to look back, not even time to share, not even time to, for example, an exhibition is almost a stopping of the inspiration, and it's not very easy. So I face that, and that's a problem with collectivity if we are not really homogeneous yet. So I believe it will come that one. When Auroville will be really, there will be really a culture which will be unique in the world, and people are going to. For example, I can give an example. It was around 1972 when there was a concert in the ashram of, I forgot the instrument. It's not sitar, it's what?
Sitar.
Oui, sarod, yeah. A concert of sarod. Yeah. And when I was listening to the concert, I didn't hear any note, any music, but I could see a lot of color. So the next day, I started to express what I saw with my means. And after I went around Auroville to see the different artists, and it was really stunning that we were 5 artists. We will have almost the same style without knowing each other. Some were abstract, some were figurative, and yet all used a certain technique of having different points of color in a big white space, and it looked very much like what the mother speak of as the light of the new consciousness, that there are all colors vibrating. You know. So there I thought, oh, that could be the culture. You see, that will be, if we put those 5 artists in one room, we could say this is the school of Pondicherry or the school of Orville. Unfortunately, that never repeated itself. You see, now we have quite a lot of good artists, but as if each one is digging in his own way. So that's why we are still a little far from that. I wanted to say something else, if I'm not out of the subject. You see, when we speak of perfection, I try also to question myself, but where do we have perfection here? And suddenly I realized, but my God, we are swimming in Chopin's work, in Mother, and it's so perfect, so incredibly perfect. Each line, each phrase, each sentence is perfect. So what can we do? You see, the only thing we can do is to be grateful and as silent as possible, and to receive. So the first thing is to receive. The second thing is to express. And then after comes the collective reception, which is a mystery. Any other question?
Yes. So in the experience that you said, and this is also for me like a personal journey, right? How does one discern a judgment? Judgment.
Yes.
Because one of the things, like say it's been part of the schooling, there is a judgment or an assessment of what needs to be, how it needs to be. And one is where the moment you said, like the aha, where even without knowing, there is an experience of that perfection. The struggle of dropping that judgment or the notion of also perfection or the pursuit of it. How do I put that question? No, it's not an assessment. How does one navigate that journey?
I don't know. Judgment is not a word that I use very often.
No, it's not. I know it's not a used word. I'm coming back from experiences of also. Like I said, like for me, when I was learning art as a child, instead of allowing me to work with the colors and have my own expression, or like even as a child going to school, there was always a judgment of how it needed to be looking like, right? Like, colors need to be like this. This has to be the perfect blend. This has to be the perfect shade. There is a way of doing things. This is the way it needs to be done. A lot of that schooling. It is only in the last few years I'm unlearning when I've realized the impact of that. Where I was given a certain perspective of what perfection needs to look like, be like, and the individual expression of it was probably felt at the best guided by that. In present times, I see that, and I could be completely wrong, I see the impact and influence of it as well, and very few and far times to step out of it. And I leave this open to anyone to respond. How does one navigate that in today's time where the influence and impact of that is there? Of course, surrendering to the works and the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother or any spiritual leanings helps us. But sometimes it seems like a journey of having to fight the life's battles, and then, something happens, and then it seems there is a reversal order of it.
Bon, I was lucky not to have gone to any art school, so I did not have any influence. And what you put is a very good question. Once you make a painting, you have to see how do you feel. So what I keep saying to everybody is that you have to relate to your experience. You have an experience, and it's, for me, I'm more interested in experience in a very physical, so we have that, how to express that. So you make a painting, and then you look, you try to absorb it physically, and you can feel if it's okay or what remains to be done. So it's only the only judgment, the only reference is the experience, not the outside experience, not the outside influence. And that's very important. And that's the only way to be original, because your experience is unique for you. And then it's like that. Otherwise, you see a lot of art which is the copy, or you say, oh, I have seen that before. It's a copy of this, a copy of... And people, it's very difficult actually to be an artist, you see. It's not... actually, a French artist said the most difficult part in an artist's life is the 99 first years. So you see that there is still very lot of space for improvement, no? So you are constantly in that space of, at the same time there is a joy, there is a presence, a certitude, a gratitude. At the same time you are moving. And so nothing is guaranteed. And you can make a so-called masterpiece, and the next day you make an horrible thing, and it's like that. You see, it's regarding the reception of the audience, that's where we are. I would say Auroville is still a very rural community. You see, we are very far from a collective reception, so it will come.
Sure, thank you. Lakshmi, you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to go back to Saraswati. And if we remember, in Vedic and Puranic period, she was a river, flowing, spontaneity. And then gradually she was accepted, and she became the goddess of knowledge, perfection, peace, unity, harmony. And when one invokes Saraswati before a concert, usually all the artists invoke either Shiva to have his blessings, Saraswati, or Ganesha. One connects to something higher than our physical body, physical protection. So their blessings is so important. That help us to cross through all the difficulties one can have in front of us before any event, anything in life. And I want to go back to Pierre. He was my teacher in painting, and I remember he used to put incense burn. Come on, draw this. And it has the flow, the movements. It was so difficult. As a child, we used to really try. But he said, come on, try, go on trying. So that's what is, for me, more important than just saying that I'm working for a perfection, means I want to achieve this. Because it has no limit. Perfection has no limit. It is something infinite. And as a human being, what one can do is just go on trying in every field. Whether it is painting, dance, or music, or any action in life, one can just keep trying, and that helps to go closer to perfection.
Thank you.
No, I think Pierre already said it. He put it very beautifully. I think the person involved, he himself, is the best judge. If the child somewhere has to be taught for his own inner self, to see whether something has come out, beautifully or not. And of course, the teacher is always there to guide. But somewhere, once you work the child to be a little centered, he himself realizes, okay, I've gone wrong here. No, this is what I should correct. Show him something a little more perfect. And this coming to the judgment, you see, we are living in an imperfect world. And that is the challenge of it. After 100 years, there will be other imperfections, if not these imperfections. And I think these imperfections also, kind of, be the trigger point in us to become more and more, it's like chiseling. You need the blows, you need the imperfections somewhere, to chisel yourself, to shake you up and say, no, that is not what you should be. So I think we should not really aim at providing a perfect world to the kids. There's no perfect world. The kids have to learn, they have to learn, they have to unlearn. It's an ongoing process. Maybe if you're doing it in a school, perhaps you have to do it outside. I think maybe best way would be is to prepare them for that. You see, there will be a learning happening, there will be an unlearning happening as you progress in life. Today you're learning it here, and tomorrow there'll be some other experience, and you will have to unlearn certain things to, that's what even we say in yoga, to go to the next step. You'll have to give what you are, and that's what Mother says. If you want to be very good, if you're happy with your mind, forget being super mind. Be happy, like a monkey is a monkey. If it likes jumping around, it can be a monkey, it can't become a mind. So it's like, this, I think learning and unlearning is a part of life. And maybe some way the child learns it and he starts, only thing is we should encourage him to keep looking within himself and be his own judge, I think. Something like that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Anybody of the audience has a question, a reflection, a comment, or maybe willing to share an experience of what is probably opened up for you listening to this dialogue?
I would like to say something in one line.
Sure, please come. No. Yes.
To me, perfection is something like an unending journey of self-discovery. Probably, and there is no destination. So we'll have to keep on trying, and whatever we can achieve at this level, there is another challenge. So in that way, we can just move forward and try to be more and more perfect. That's what I understood.
Anupama wanted to say something. Anu? No? Okay. Pierre wants to say something.
I want to say something which I read this morning. No, the mother. It's the book of Mona Sarkar, and it's about the mother blessing of the divine. And the mother said how she works. She works mainly through vibration, because Mona was a little upset that he didn't get any vision, any experience, but he felt only vibration. Mm-hmm. And the mother explained, that's how I work with you. And that's how the Supreme works the best in the physical level. He said, when you have visions, it's always, then after to translate, there is always intermediaries. Mm-hmm. So that's why I use the word physical many times when I spoke before. So there is like it's not like hearing inspiration or vision, trying to see to get the vibration in the body. And at the very physical level. For example, I give an example which I ask my students. Sometimes imagine that you are eating a mango in June. It's very hot, the mango is fresh, you eat it, you enjoy it very much. And then I ask you, how can you describe that experience? How can you describe that? You see, you cannot. If you paint a mango, it won't give me the feeling of eating a mango. You see, so how you have to analyze your body, your different sensations at the very deep level, and that becomes very interesting, because anything can become a universe to explore. So that's why I insist on making really. The mother said that this new consciousness can be experienced only through the cellular mind. So it's, I would say, our duty, all of us in Auroville, to try to get that, which is quite a mystery. It's not easy how to go. And all my work is to try to get that. And ideally, I would like that if you look at my painting long enough, you should become immortal. So I'm very far from it. It's still a work in progress, but at least the goal is clear.
Pierre has a very high goal. I think we are still, as human beings here, and with our physical body, the energy from vital, and the rational mind, which we will try to go beyond, there is a big journey that we have to go through.
It's
with
not
it.
beyond, it's here.
Yes. That's what they say. When people say, so, it's so beautiful here, and how is everything? I said, we are still human beings, trying to achieve something. And this is a laboratory with so many different people from different countries, different religion, different thinking, and the way we are brought up from different, with our parents. All these things help, and our teachers in the school also, they are examples, help us to grow, and we try to keep in front of us somebody, and Mother and Sri Aurobindo, of course. Without them, without their philosophy, it's so different. We are bound with our ritualistic things, like in temple or in Indian culture, traditions. But they really taught us to go beyond, break all these barriers, and seek something within and express in the outside world all that is best possible.
Thank you. So with that, I think I'd like to just probably summarize in a sense. I liked what Pure said about not perfection, but perfectibility. So it brings is a sense of an ability. It brings in a sense of a capacity. And that we are endowed with the capacity to know the limitlessness of the perfection which is there, but it is a discovery. And in the whole process that we allow our instruments, whether it's the senses, the body, or the work, to be refined. And somewhere the thought also came is that, this was like somebody did a column, there was a very perfect, and I said, wow, this is so perfect. Till one child came and walked over it, and it was gone. Or like when I'm cleaning in Matri Mandir, and I'm looking back and say, wow, this looks so perfectly clean, and there the leaves drop in. And I remember Karthik always telling me, it's nature's way to remind impermanence. So in that moment, the joy of seeing it was there, but when I became attached to it and a thing came, oh, it should be clean like this, the lesson was dropped in there. And so for me, I think it's going back to say is that it is a continuous journey. It is a journey of doing the best that I can in the here and now, but yet being open and surrendering to the higher grace working through. And the call of perfection is a very inner thing felt in the body, like Pierre kept saying, how do I feel in that moment? And that can never be subjected to somebody else because he or she comes in from a very different lens and a perspective. But as long as I can stay committed, as long as can I stay true and allow myself to be molded in, like in the words Lakshmiji mentioned, learning and unlearning, and that it is even beyond this lifetime of birth, but just allow that to see how much I can in this birth of mine. So I think I just love to be able to close on that, and thank you for bringing in the nuances of it and how Mother and Sri Aurobindo allowed that to express. And yes, I would love to have a world which we said I was never exposed to that world of judgment and conditioning, and that maybe, where Orwell is a place that is meant to be that as an example, we work towards to make that happen.
You said something about capacities, you see?
Yeah.
And this is, Aurobindo is very clear when in the chapter, the Gnostic being, that the Gnostic being has no capacity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just receptive to what comes. So it becomes, the idea is to become totally transparent and to be totally receptacle of the divine force. Even the mother, she said that she was, when they were building Golconda, she was asked questions, very technical questions. She could reply and say, I don't have this knowledge, but it comes when it is needed. So that's the idea. So once I was asked by a visitor, what do you want to be in the future? And I replied, I would like to be a total idiot, you see? To be receptive to whatever comes. And not, because most of us, especially artists, there is usually quite an ego behind. So the ego is the thing to drop.
I think that's a perfect ending. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. And
Nothing
really
can be taught. You see, everything. You have to learn and unlearn.
And